the Nathan's Famous 4th of July champion of the world, Joey Chestnut!
Here we are, Discipline to Win podcast. We've got the man, the myth, the legend here, Joey Jaws Chestnut with us. Joey is the #1 ranked competitive eater in the world. He is 100% self-made and has really just dedicated his life to becoming the best in the absolute world at competitive eating. Joey, thank you so much for joining us here today.
Oh, great to be with you guys.
Yeah, thank you so much. And I know we kind of just want to start it off with, before we get into like anything of what you're doing now, but like where you started. So where did the passion come from? I guess just tell us a little bit about like your upbringing and how you got into the field that you're in right now.
It was weird because I grew up in a big family, 6 kids in the family. I have five siblings, and I was the biggest eater. I mean, it was obvious. I had 3 older brothers, and I could always eating was the only thing I could really beat them in.
Mm-hmm.
I had 2 older sisters, and they're so big family. Everybody knew I was the biggest eater, and in fact, it was like something I wasn't like proud of.
Mm-hmm.
Like my parents, like my brothers, would get mad at me, like, "Oh, Joey's eating all the food." So it wasn't like competitive eating was a goal.
Mm-hmm.
But I was known as the biggest eater in the family, and when I was in college, friends started to find out like, oh, it was like one of those things like, all right, I got to hold back, eat healthy during the week. On the weekends, it'd be like reward days,
Mm-hmm.
like, and eventually like friends and found out about it, and when I was 21, I did my first contest, and it was weird because like I said, it wasn't a goal of mine. It wasn't like I grew up wanting to be the best competitive eater. I had a plan. I was getting my engineering degree, working in construction management, and so I did this first contest, and I was like, oh my god, it's perfect for me. There was like a natural my ability, and then there's all these other things that I loved, like the competition, not having to hold back, and it like that first contest, it was literally like 19 years ago.
Wow.
I was 21, and from that moment on, I started thinking, all right, I can get better. And I didn't even win that first contest. I tied for 3rd. It was a lobster eating contest. I'd never eaten lobster before in my life, and so I was making a mess of it, and it just like the gears in my head started turning. I was like, all right, I can get better at this, and then 2 weeks later, there was a deep fried asparagus contest, and I won that. And it was like, all right, it's on.
That's awesome. I guess like having to make the decision because like you tried that first contest, you came in 3rd, but then deciding, that you wanted to be the best at it. Like growing up, like going back to who you are as a person and different things like in your upbringing, like did you already have that competitive spirit in you?
It's fairly competitive. But it's different. I was in the marching band. I first chair trumpet. I was good in math, so I was like, all right, I'm gonna do do engineering. It was fairly easy to me.
Yeah.
So I was like, all right, I'm gonna do it. And then I started doing these contests. It was kind of like what was I? Like in college, like, and when you're young, everybody's like, "Oh, if you work hard, you can do it."
Yeah.
And when I told people like, "Oh, I want to win these contests," and people are like, "No, you can't win that. It's always the 500-pound guys, or it's the Asian guys," and like, "No, I think I could figure it out." And so it was a different kind of motivation. It was like almost prove people wrong.
Yeah.
And I really enjoyed that when I was younger.
I think that's a very pivotal, point of focus to be that type of motivated, where I draw a lot of the same. Nick draws a lot of the same, where with us, like everyone else in our business, gray hair, 50s, 60s, and they think they know everything about it. And we're like trying to prove the world wrong because everyone looks at us as like two young guys and they're like, what the hell could these guys know? Like, they don't know anything, you know, and we're just trying to, like, that still motivates me a ton.
Yeah.
Is just trying to prove everybody wrong that we can do it bigger, we can do it better, and we could, you know, make it better for people. So I know that's still a big motivator for us. When you came in, we were just chopping it up a little bit about like, you know, the difference between being motivated and disciplined and things like that. And you said, you know, really your motivation has changed. So if that's really, I guess, was providing your motivation in the beginning, what's providing your motivation now?
Motivation, it's definitely changed a lot. When I was younger, I was incredibly shy. It was really hard for me to talk to people, and I still am shy, and it's still hard. But I've learned that, like, you know, fans, it's become, I don't know how to say it, but it's been one of the best pleasures is making other people happy. And when I grew up, I never thought making actual people happy would be a goal of mine. I was like, oh, I'm going to deal with numbers. I'm going to try to build buildings, and it's being able to interact with fans, and it has really been a different, it's been awesome, and getting that feedback and knowing that I'm part of these people's lives. A couple, like, not just 4th of July, but they talk about me anytime they're having a big meal.
Yeah.
And it's that's motivation for me to really keep pushing. And
You feel like you can't let them down, basically.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so, like, it's a big motivation knowing that I'm part of these people's lives, and it's and you know, competitive eating is weird, but there's something about I don't know, it just people having fond memories, and being able to make people happy. It's a weird feeling that when I was younger, it wasn't ever a goal of mine to make people happy. I was purely competition and prove people wrong, and I think having that dynamic of having fans and trying to make people happy, not even necessarily trying it, but it just happens, and keep it up. It's been a big surprise.
Do you think that competitors at the very peak of their sport, you know, the Tom Brady's of the world, do you think that's what keep those guys going as long as they went, just because they feel sort of the same, like, obligation to their fans and people that they bring so much joy to?
It's obligation's a weird word. Yeah. And that's like, it's like pressure, and I don't really want to say it's like that. It's more like support.
Yeah.
And it's they support me. And it's like, oh, there's times when I'm training or I'm missing something because discipline. I have to miss. I've missed tons of friends and tons of weddings.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of events are on weekends.
Yeah.
Or I'm not going to go out on I have to miss things because I have to get ready for events, and I don't necessarily. I make sacrifices, and I get a lot of support, and to keep doing well. It's a weird. It definitely helps.
For sure.
To go back to, like, you at 21, so, like, obviously you're this big eater, like, when you're growing up. You didn't start getting into competitive eating, and, like, what we notice is at the beginning, like, it's all, like, you're young, you're hungry, it's all willpower, it's all effort, like, and sometimes you're like, and I don't know if it's the same for you, but, like, we were just go, and now we're at a point where, like, we're seeking expert knowledge, we're training differently, we're studying differently, we're learning about things differently. How have you evolved from, like, the first time at 21 when you were just going into a competition, I would imagine just trying to eat as much as possible, to now, like, is your training different, or is your thought process different when you're going into an event, stuff like that?
It's there's just so many little differences.
Mm-hmm.
Like, first off, I'm older.
Yeah.
I can't train like I used to. When I was 21, I could train every third day.
Mm-hmm.
Now, if I do a training practice, I put on 10 pounds. It takes me 5 or 6 days to get back to normal.
Mm-hmm.
and it's harder on the body now I'm older. So I have to be smarter. I know my body better than ever before, though, and it's I can push and knowing my body is it actually I think it's more important than have that youth of it would have been amazing to have the knowledge of my body when I was younger, but it's just not possible.
Yeah.
So there's it's I don't know where I'm going with this. What was the question?
No, just like I just want to know, like when you're 21, like I would imagine you obviously don't know anything yet.
Oh, yeah.
You're just getting into it and eating to where now you're whatever 16-time champion to where of
Yeah. So the things I worry about when I was younger, like I would do way more food practices, and I'd be hard. I was harder on my body. It was and you can I was able to get away with it when I was younger, but now it's a lot. Now it took a long time of trial and error, and it really because there's no books on competitive eating. It took a long time of just slowly figuring out my body, like how do I do? I call it a cycle, where before every practice I do a cleanse, and then I do a practice, and then there's a recovery period after every practice. Even if I'm not hungry, I'm eating super high. Like as soon as I can eat, just high fiber food, just lettuce, cucumber, simple dressing with lemon juice, olive oil, and I try to get back to my normal weight. And once I get back to my normal weight, I have 1 day of normal eating, then I do another cleanse, and then I do that cycle again and try to build up my number, build a tolerance. If it's for whatever contest I'm getting ready for, I'm trying to build a tolerance for that food, and that's worked for me last 10 or 12 years. Okay. But before that, it's changed.
Yeah.
I remember when I was younger, I would try to do a cleanse that would last like 2.5 days on no calories, and it was super hard on the body, and it didn't really. It took me a long time to because it took me a long time to change like my habits, like because I'm kind of not superstitious, but it's just like it's kind of working for me. But I didn't. I had to find a better way eventually. Yeah. Because I was getting older, and it's a lot harder to go on no calories for 2.5 days, and I figured it out. But it's most of competitive eating, trial and error. There's no books in the whole community. Competitive eaters, it's a weird community because everybody has put in their own work, and we're all a little bit guarded. It's like, why should I help you?
Totally.
I put in all the work.
Yeah.
But we're friends in the community. But it's a weird thing. And I'm sure in your community too that you're.
It is very similar. Like we'll go and like share dinner. But at the same time, you can tell when you get on like a conversation where guys sort of keep things close to the vest, to where like at the end of the day, we are competing against each other, to where like, you know, if there's somebody out there with, you know, $1 million, like we want their money, you know, just as much as that other person wants their money. So yeah, it is very similar. I'd say the only difference with us is there's like so much more like stuff for us to like read or try to consume. Correct. To where you've been a trailblazer in, you know, your sport, in your industry, to where it's way different, to where you've taken it to another place that nobody's ever taken it, to where you've made, you know, your complete livelihood and career off of it. And I think that, you know, that alone, how many competitors right now are sort of have also made a career of it to the point where they're able to support their family on it? I'm sure it's not a large amount of people that have done what you've done with that respect. Yeah, it's not too many. There's Kobayashi. Then there's a couple other competitive eaters they've kind of mixed between competitive eating and then YouTube, social media people. Yeah. There's Matt Stoney. There's who else we have? Probably like a Badlands. Badlands, but he was for a long time. He
what is the subway conductor.
Yeah.
So he finally retired and he's full time.
Yeah, I think he's got like 4 or 5 million
Dude,
YouTube subscribers.
Yeah.
Something like that. It's crazy.
He's a sweetheart.
Yeah.
And he's capitalized his love of eating and then his love of actually being an entertainer. And
Yeah.
he's a sweetheart. And so there's probably 5 competitive eaters who are like that are it's their full time gig, whether it's competitive eating or they mix in the social media.
Yeah.
But I've been really lucky that, I mean, my big thing is competitive eating.
Yeah.
It's competitions and sponsors, and I've been really, really lucky with all that.
How, I guess, like with regards to turning it into a business, you've made your own personal brand out of it. How did the sponsors come? I mean, did, like Rich and George help with that? Did a lot of people come to you organically? Did you hire a publicist or anything like that?
It's taken a long time. Competitive eating, it is what it is.
Yeah.
It's different.
Yeah.
It's on the fringe. It's not mainstream. It's not basketball, baseball. I mean, it's a little bit above darts.
Yeah.
And it's a little bit, and it's different. It's so it took me a long time to find the right management company to represent me, and they've been able to find awesome deals for me, and it's just yeah, I guess it happened kind of organically, but also
Building like the right team
yeah,
around you too.
over the years building my name,
Yeah.
and companies trust the name eventually.
Yeah. I mean, I would think you're extremely marketable. You, I would say, own a day of the year. Like people
yeah.
associate the 4th of July with Joey Chestnut, and you're a household name to where like you're just as much of a household name as a LeBron James or a Tom Brady, to where, but I would say where other places there's debate of who's the best at what they do. With you, like there's no debate. Like you've dominated for such a long period of time that you're at the peak of the mountain to where everyone else is just climbing.
I've been really lucky with that. The length of time of my 19 years
Yeah.
competing, and I think 16 times champion. And then another thing is on the 4th of July, it's like there's only one team. It's America.
Yeah.
Where if there's a lot of people who don't like LeBron because he's been beating him.
Right.
I'm really lucky that I'll have fans in every corner of the United States.
Yeah.
And there's very few. I mean, yeah, it's a lot of people are on my side, so it's worked well that way.
And to that point, like with us, we get a lot of our motivation and competition from like, there's a million other firms that do what we do and that are out there competing with us. But like you've had this reign where you've dominated, and there really hasn't been maybe 1 or 2 people that have like tested you. So how do you like stay motivated when like, is there anyone who like, hey, this guy can maybe beat me this year, this guy could take me out this year if I don't bring my game? Like, how do you stay so motivated with such a reign of wins that you've had?
A reign of terror. No, there's some close calls. There was a loss in 2015, and it's yeah. After I lost, it was terrible that I lost, but it made me reassess things and redo how I did, or go back to the drawing board on how I trained. And I came back and set a new world record.
Yeah.
So it's I mean I have bad days.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I do. And I try to there's variables I can't control, like the weather, or there's if now I'm older, so there's injuries. There's little things they're harder, but I try to control as much as I can through practice and knowing my body. But I love it. There's no other. I mean, at first I just loved the competition, and now I love traveling around, meeting people. I still love the eating. I love the whole manipulating my body, making the whole cycle of going from empty to full, then the recovery period. And it's when there's people who are like looking like they hate life after a contest, and I'm like, I kind of like the feeling of being bloated.
Yeah.
It's like there's some people who like going to the gym.
Yeah.
I'm not one of those guys. I like the feeling of eating pounds of food and being bloated and lethargic afterwards.
Because you put in work. Like
I put in my work.
Yeah.
And I go into every event knowing I'm not gonna feel light afterwards. It's like a boxer or a football player. They know that there's gonna be some damage.
Yeah.
And it's I'm willing to make some sacrifices.
I guess what you're always fighting against too is there could always be a dark night that sort of comes out of the woodwork to where like at this point like someone could have been watching you since they were a kid and they're like, I want to be like Joey CHESTNUT, and then they can really at this point even more opportunity than you had to where they could try to mirror and replicate what you did to then try to take you out someday and be the best. And like that, I guess like you're kind of always have that in the back of your mind too, right?
Oh, absolutely. And I learned through. I remember Kobayashi. He said he had a special stomach, and I was like, that was motivation for me to say like, no, you're not special. Nobody's special.
Yeah.
And so I remember that. Like, I'm never gonna tell people I'm special.
Yeah, you're right.
But I am definitely beatable. But I'm not gonna give people more motivation than they need. But there's some awesome eaters out there. There's a new guy from Australia, gnarly. Oh,
Okay.
This guy, he swallows. He's amazing jaws. Like they call me Jaws, but this guy, he's a beast.
Okay.
And, I'll be competing against him in a couple of weeks, and it's been fun to see him get better and better over the last even last 6 months. He's gotten better.
Have you met him yet?
Oh yeah, he beat me in a wing contest.
No way.
Wow.
Yeah, so I beat him in a bagel contest in January, and then I think March he beat me in a wing contest in Florida and Miami. Miami's a rough. I don't know if I can. I love going out in Miami, so I probably wasn't at my best. But we'll see. I'll see him in Knoxville in like 2 weeks.
Like, what do you think there's more effect of? Like him like knocking you off in a contest, like does that build him up more, or do you think you taking a loss to him and you're like, okay, asshole, like I'm never losing to you again?
Yeah, dude. So when I lose a contest, it feels like the sponsors are almost happy because they get more media.
Yeah, that's true. I guess.
Yeah. Dude, it doesn't work well.
Yeah.
It's actually, it's never good to lose.
Yeah.
But it's nice to know what people are capable of.
Mm-hmm.
That's true too.
And and to know like, all right, like if I'm, and I know what I'm capable of. If they beat me, it's like I know there's. I don't think I've ever been beaten, and at the end of the contest say, "Oh, there's no way I could have done that.
Mm-hmm.
There's no way I could have beaten him." I can always real quickly figure out where things went wrong.
You can like pinpoint your mistakes,
and yeah, I can pinpoint what I could have done differently.
Yeah. Whether it be like what preparation or like decisions. Like, do you have to make decisions throughout the contest to like I should have pushed more there, or like do you try to keep some like in the tank for the end? Or
preparations, the technique during the contest. Oh, some people, if it's a weird food, some people just go out of the gates with a better technique.
Yeah.
And so I'll try to change my technique during a contest. But if it's a shorter contest, there's not too much time to change. Sometimes little things that like, I dropped my bottles of water, and then I'm trying to ration my water because I don't have that much water left throughout the contest. The little things, they compound. One thing goes into another, and so throughout the contest, there's little things that could happen, and that's where practice comes into play. Knowing the food, can try to control those variables to make sure that day of the event I could find my rhythm as fast as possible and just go all the way.
Yeah, you never want to make the same mistake twice, I guess. We do the same thing in business. Like if we lose or fail at like a deal we're trying to get, we'll legit have a full-on meeting, like try to figure out where we went wrong and then make sure that like literally never happens again.
Yeah.
And I feel that like the difference between winners and losers is like a lot of people will take a loss and then they'll just be like, well, I guess like this just isn't for me anymore. And then they'll just, instead of trying to keep pushing to get better, they might stay complacent. And we see in our industry that complacency is so prevalent to where guys will get a little bit success, and what we look at, a lot of guys will benchmark success in our industry to where they're making like $200,000-$400,000 a year, and they don't have to work real hard for it, and they'll just then boom stop pushing, and then their growth will like plateau for the rest of their life. To where I feel like, especially when you are, you know, the undisputed number one, it's probably hard sometimes to not get complacent and to keep training and pushing yourself. But I guess you got to lean on like the different factors of motivation that we talked about, and then discipline, I guess, to where like you just know it's what you do, and it's probably a combination of discipline and motivation that keeps you on the right track.
And there's the discipline, motivation, but like I don't want to say that it's good to lose, but it's good to lose some of the small events.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because then it really puts me back on track for like the big ones.
Yeah.
And it's a weird it keeps you hungry.
Yeah.
And it's one of those things that like if you win them all, the complacency. There's been some years like people say, "Oh, who's your biggest competition?" I'm like, dude, my biggest competition is this goofy dude. And he can beat everybody if he really tries, and that's me.
Yeah.
And I can beat everybody, but I can also lose if I get lazy.
Yeah. Now, you said you have a competition coming up?
Oh yeah, it's gonna be Bologna in Knoxville.
Okay. And
How far away is that? Like how time wise?
I think it's actually a little bit more than 2 weeks.
Okay.
It's May 16th.
so you're and we touched on your prep a little bit. So like, where are you at for like that specific event? Like, where are you at in your prep for that?
I've done a full practice and a half practice.
And a full practice is like you basically recreate the event?
Yeah.
Okay.
And it's one of those weird events, like they're smoking the bologna, and they're cutting it in thick slices. So there's a couple of things, little variables that I'm trying to figure out, make sure I can figure out the taste. I'll do it at least one more full on practice, and then and I hope I can get the right taste, right texture of everything. But it'll be exciting.
Yeah. And then after that, are you done until
After that,
Nathan's?
I think I'll be done.
Okay.
All the way up to the 4th of July, and which is pretty typical. I try to do less leading up to the 4th of July, so I can just focus.
Yeah. And that prep is, I mean, pretty much your prep is the same. It's just different foods, like in terms of what you're doing. Yeah. So it's prep day, and then you're doing that cleanse period.
Exactly.
Okay.
It's a cycle.
Yeah.
And I'm pretty good right now. I've been pretty good about jogging. I hate it.
I don't think anyone likes to.
Yeah.
And controlling my diet, not drinking beer.
Yeah.
So as long as I can control those things, I should be able to keep doing practices once a week, or once every 6 days if things are going good, and then and without gaining too much weight.
Mm-hmm.
What's like the normal length of time that you'll like really like get heavy into the cycle for the 4th of July?
Oh, so it gets more and more. So ideally, I'm putting in about 8 weeks. And
Okay.
This year, I think I'll actually replace my last bologna practice with a hot dog practice. So so I'll really get those full eight, and so that usually works pretty good for me.
Everyone who's trying to knock you off, do you think they're putting in the same amount of prep, or do you think, if they're younger, maybe it's more condensed, or?
The younger people do definitely eat more.
Oh, really?
They do more practices in a short period of time. Well, also all the younger guys, they all have to qualify.
Oh,
So
that's true.
They have to do their qualifier event, and then they have to do the 4th of July, which is actually a little bit harder. I think that once you, it's nice to kind of, it's almost like a marathon, and you want to ramp up. And I'm pushing all the way, like those last 2 or 3 practices. I want to be breaking the record in practice.
Yeah.
Not really trying anything new, and just be all dialed in for that one big contest on the 4th of July.
Speaking of breaking the record, is there, do you think for yourself, a max? Like that, like could you ever like plateau to where you can't push any further? Like for like limitation of your body, really, or do you think that you could just keep pushing?
I definitely know I could do more. The best way for me to get to 80 hot dogs would be to have somebody else do 79.
Yeah.
And if like right now the record's 76, I know I could do 80. It's just a matter of the right motivation the day of.
Yeah.
Those last few hot dogs at the end of the contest, it's your body. You've been taking in water. You've been taking in air. It's really easy to lose control. And if you burp, some stuff comes out of your mouth. You could get disqualified.
Yeah.
So it's risky.
Yeah.
Pushing hard at the end.
So you're measuring risk the whole time too, right?
Yeah. So it's intense, and the muscles in your throat are tired. It's like if something doesn't go down quite right, you cough. It's so easy to get disqualified at the end. So if there was somebody pushing me, it'd be a lot. There'd be more reason to take that risk.
So in a way, you might almost be rooting that some dark horse emerges someday that sort of challenges you for the throne and pushes you to get there.
I think competition is good for everybody.
Yeah.
Like when I lost, I came back and made a new record. Kobayashi, for years he wasn't challenged. The most he'd done was 53. Then when I beat him, I did 66, but he did 63.
Yeah.
So competition is good for everybody. It's for every industry.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's capitalism, right?
For sure.
In a dorky way, it's good, and sure there's bad things that come out of it, but I think it's what keeps everybody hungry.
Yeah.
I was at your first contest in person. What was your number that you did at your very first one at Nathan's?
My first one, oh my god, I got third. I did 32. I was a table ender.
I think I was right in front of you in the crowd there.
The best eaters with the highest numbers, they put them in the middle of the table, and then they get worse and worse towards the end.
Yeah.
They put me right on the end. They weren't expecting me to do well, but I ended up getting third, and it was not a bad day. I remember I went out there. I was wearing Levi's.
Yeah. Did you surprise yourself with that number that day, or did you know that that's what you were capable at the time?
I had done 30 in practice, and so it was nice to do a personal best the day of the contest.
Yeah.
It was that doesn't happen very often anymore. But it was a good day. It was a nice surprise.
So that day you came out and had obviously your best showing. Did you think it would be did you think the journey would be as hard as it was to get to your current status and to your current numbers? Was it, easier than expected? What was that journey like to over double that performance to where you're at today?
It was baby steps. I wasn't really looking towards this number where I'm at. I was looking always every practice just a little bit more. And once I get it down, I get a little bit more comfortable. And just a little bit more, and if things just find a way, find a way to stretch the stomach, find a way to make the body cooperate. It's so it was never I think if you're looking 80 hot dogs when you're doing 30, that's just a really big task. But it's I think reasonable. I mean, dreams are what you do when you sleep.
Yeah.
But goals, you can map out a goal.
Yeah.
And do it one thing at a time, one step at a time.
Did you already make the decision before that day that you were going to be the best, or I guess can you remember a moment where you're like, I'm going to do this, I'm going to be the best?
I think I remember after I won the asparagus contest.
Okay.
I was like, I have to beat that little guy Kobayashi, and I had to beat him. So if you're a competitive eater, you have to win the 4th of July contest.
Yeah.
So it's
it's like the Masters event for golf, right?
The goal.
Yeah.
And do you still get obviously 16-time champion? Do you still get the nerves when you go up on stage? It's because it's got to be crazy.
Yeah. But it's a weird nerve. It's exciting.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh my god. It's nerves and adrenaline pumping. There's times where I bit my finger. There's real blood, or one time I had an injured leg, and dude, there's so much adrenaline. I don't feel anything.
Yeah.
I'm so amped up and excited. It's awesome.
Yeah.
I still care enough that my body goes into that mode.
Yeah. That's
I
awesome.
would say my favorite moment ever of your career was when you put the guy in the headlock, the protest.
Oh my God,
That was like unbelievable.
Yeah.
It's like a blur. I hardly remember it. All I remember is like somebody bumped into me, and I was like, he's standing in front of me. I gotta keep eating.
And that's time when they like everyone was like the true American hero. Joey Chestnut.
He was a kid. He was so skinny.
Like, did you even have a conceivable thought where you're like, okay, I'm gonna like put this dude in the headlock and throw him, or like did it just happen?
No, it was like I was like confused. Like they're not going to stop the contest. They can't restart it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And all of this, like I don't know if I don't know how it grabbed him. But,
It just happened.
It just happened so fast. Then I was like, I got to keep eating. And I just went back to it, and I could hear them like talking and yelling at him behind me. And then it kind of set in, like, wow, that was really somebody.
Yeah. Like that's the equivalent of like when someone like runs on the field like in like
during,
a soccer
sporting
match
event,
and like one of the players like takes him down. Like that was like probably the best thing that could have happened for like viewers for that contest too, to where like it was like perfect.
Yeah.
Like and they were like the protesters. They're a serious community. They're like,
Really?
oh, like they're like, oh, you have rage in you. Like I didn't really have rage. I had food aggression. You got in front of my food.
Yeah. Right. It was someone that was like preventing you from potentially like winning.
Yeah.
Like it was just an obstacle at that point.
It all worked out.
Yeah.
You mentioned just you were wearing jeans in the first. Like, what is the attire now? Like when you get on, what's the is it different for different foods, different contests?
Stretch. Yeah. Gotta be loose and lots of movement. So it's you have to be ready to work.
Yeah.
If you a day of the contest, I'm sweating like an animal.
Yeah.
I'm ready to push myself. So I'm built for comfort, not for it's competitive eating, not pretty eating.
Yeah.
Not competitive nicing. It's gonna be ugly, and it's gonna be a lot of eating.
Yeah.
So you flew here today from Indianapolis, right? What's like a normal day for you? Like what's a day in the life of Joey Chestnut now? Like when you're walking through like the grocery store at like Publix or Wegmans, like or Whole Foods, are people stopping you in the store every day? Like what's that like?
A little bit. Depends on the grocery store. If it's older women, usually older women, like if certain grocery stores, I don't get recognized, but if it's a grocery store with more younger guys, they definitely get recognized.
Like in the airport even.
Airport today, yeah. Oh, like 3 times.
Yeah.
People are like,
and it's always the happiest people.
Yeah.
It's good people. And I use that as motivation. Like, all right.
Yeah.
I'm eating super clean today. I'm pretty much coffee and so it's like, all right. It really makes it easier for me to stay on my diet when I get all this little bit of a motivation, and I can just use it. And it's but I have a normal life. I have awesome fiance. I have 2 dogs, foster other dogs. Working on my garden. If I wasn't here, I'd be outside working on a garden and trying to probably plant some tomato plants.
Awesome.
Very cool. Now, what's next for Joey Chestnut? Like, how much longer do you think? Because like every great athlete, at some point, like they start to plateau. But you've been doing this for so long, but you haven't plateaued really. You've only been improving every single year to where like. Do you ever see a point? Obviously, there has to be some point where that starts.
It's it has to happen eventually.
Yeah,
I'm not looking forward to it. And then it's it's already kind of happening. It's already getting harder to make gains.
Mm-hmm.
But I know, like I said, I know my body better than ever.
Yeah,
and I'm hoping that I can keep squeaking out not only wins but also records.
Yeah,
because. It feels good to be able to do something that you never did before, and eventually it's going to happen. Somebody's going to beat me, and then I'm not going to give up. They're going to have to beat me again.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And we'll see what happens. But I'm not really. I'm not. If it happens, when it happens, it happens.
Yeah.
But I love competitive eating still. I love the traveling. I love eating different foods. I grew up in California. I never really even had a pierogi. Now I'm a pierogi eating champion of the world.
Yeah.
I kolache eating champion of the world. There's like awesome foods that all around that I get to eat, and it's been a blast.
Yeah.
You keep, I'm sure, all of your competitors up at night. What keeps Joey Chestnut up at night? Like, what do you worry about?
Oh, what do I worry about? What do I don't know. Worrying's a waste of time.
Yeah.
I'm pretty good. I
Like, you probably just you control what you can control, right?
There's a lot of things out of my control.
Yeah.
My biggest thing that is I love to eat, dude. And when I was younger, I could get away with being heavy.
Yeah.
Oh God, I could get up to like 270, and I could still win contests, and I
Yeah.
could still be active. Now if I'm like 230, and if I go any higher, it's hard. Like my ankles are sore, my knees are sore. I can't do things. I get winded. So it's a lot more work to control my appetite. Like that's my clean eating.
Yeah.
Because my body is way less forgiving. And now that I'm a little bit older, so that's the biggest thing.
So it's definitely just you versus you at this point.
Yeah, it's me. It's like and I love to eat. Oh my God, there's nothing better than pastrami sandwich, and some beers. But that sticks on me.
Yeah.
But yeah, so what keeps me up at night is just making sure I control my clean or bad eating.
Yeah, because I guess you are human. At the end of the day, like when people get that, the 1 hour production glimpse into your life on the 4th of July, it's almost like you're like a superhuman, to where it's like, man, this guy this must be just, easy for him at this point. This is just like, he has this superhuman ability. But all I've heard this whole interview is like, it has taken an incredible amount of drive and work and consistency and discipline and motivation to get to where you're at. And I think that speaks to everybody in whatever they're doing in life, that there's very few people out there that are just naturally great at anything that they do, and that if you want to be the best at what you do, it's just going to require a whole lot of work. And that is what it is.
And obsessing, like when you say worry, like I don't really worry, but I obsess over things. Like I've been last couple of years, I've been trying to figure out a technique to go ambidextrous.
Okay.
So I can dunk with both hands and feed. So I can cut time down. And I just haven't been able to figure it out. But I'm hoping I can. Maybe this year I can figure it out. But I do obsess over things.
Yeah.
And it's not gonna. Things aren't gonna be figured out on their own.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's like, if I'm gonna get better, I'm gonna have to either do something different or do what I've been doing and just to the next level.
Mm-hmm.
One of my favorite quotes is, "Interested people watch obsessed people change the world." And like, you speak perfectly to that, because you've just become obsessed with this and you've made it your craft, your trade, your life. And I would wager most likely everyone who's trying to knock you off isn't obsessed with it. They might not be all in. And I think you have to be 100% all in on whatever you do to win at the highest level.
And yeah, you have to, because there are other people that are all in. Where nobody is really that special.
Right.
You can't beat people by just phoning it in.
Right.
The competition, it's you gotta put it on the line.
Yeah.
Like, if you wouldn't put in a full cycle, like how much would you drop off from world record pace?
Oh my God. Like what you're saying, if I didn't like do like,
if you didn't do a full train up and you just showed up and winged it.
My first practice is about 48 hot dogs.
No way.
Okay.
So there's that much growth throughout the
There's
cycle.
A lot of growth.
Yeah.
Wow.
And it's more than just the cycle. During the cycle, I'm working on my jaw and throat exercises, and getting the jaws, everything working, ramped up, and conditioned, ready to just take on that more food.
So that sort of gives me like some great insight that I never even had, that if like a lot of the guys who are putting up, 30 in the 30s, maybe, the 20s, if they would put in the same amount of work of doing, a full 2-month train up or a 3-month train up and obsess at your level, they probably have a way higher ceiling.
Oh yeah. And it's a lot of it, they don't know what they're capable of.
Yeah.
It's or they hold me to a high regard. Like Joey's just, they think I'm special. And
Yeah.
I'm really not. And so it's a weird, people limit themselves.
Yeah. I think everyone does. I think like the average person off the street has no idea what they're capable of in anything they want to do in life. Like humans are the most adaptable creature that's ever, graced this planet. And it's like, I think people just think that their skills and gifts that they have today is just a lot of people, it's just what they have.
And
they don't
even
realize what it could be.
People don't understand, like, if you block off, like for me at least, it was like a year of my life. Like when I took a year of my life and like completely dedicated it to one thing, and like just from like again, not being like the smartest person in the room, not knowing like really anything, and just like working extremely hard for like, if you just lock in for like a 12-month period, the amount of growth that you can make in literally anything. Like if you like practice piano every single day, or you practice eating every single day, or like business every single day for 12 months and did nothing else. Like people don't realize, like if you just focus on one thing, the leaps and bounds that you can make, because I think people do think there's going to be a shortcut. Like people look at a Joey Chestnut and are like, oh, I can maybe hop out there and eat 70 hot dogs, but like they don't understand the preparation that it takes. Like everyone thinks it's easy, but they don't understand like the behind the scenes work that goes into it, even though they may be capable of that work to get to that level.
Yeah, it's like you said, it's
They just see you in the limelight and just think like, oh, he just does this. They don't see the months of preparation.
The days of the fasting, which is hard, and just the recovery periods, and they think, oh, he's just a big eater. Like, oh, all right, the marathon runner isn't naturally a good
Right,
runner.
exactly.
They've slowly made every muscle and bone in their body work together to get them across that finish line, that 26 miles. And I'm naturally a big eater, but I've slowly made put a lot of work into my body to make it move those hot dogs.
Yeah. And the sacrifices along the way, like you talked about earlier, of just missing things because
and it's weird because like, when you're doing it, it's not really a sacrifice. It's like, oh, it's the way it is. This is what I have to do.
Life, yeah.
It's not like I'm like, oh, it happened, but I'm focused on this.
Yeah. And one last question that I have for you, Joey, if there was somebody the millions of people that watch the hot dog eating contest and they want to be like Joey Chestnut and they're a kid, let's say 18 years old, what's the first thing that you would tell them if they want to go into the professional eating space?
Oh, if they really wanted to do it, they should keep a journal of everything they're eating,
okay,
and how they're feeling, and they really need to learn that feelings don't necessarily correlate to actual performance. You don't have to feel good in order to do good. You don't have to, and it's. We use this word feel. I feel full. You're not full. You feel tired. Just because you say you feel tired doesn't mean you have to take a nap.
Mm-hmm.
You can keep working. So it's I'd say learn to push your body and learn to control these feelings, and be aware of when you're limiting yourself by saying feel.
Mm-hmm.
And it's being able to push past these barriers, these feeling barriers, is important.
Awesome.
That's all I got. Again, I just want to thank you so much for joining us today. Awesome. And really, I mean, it's not often that you get to spend time with someone that's the best in the world at what they do. And what I've taken the most from today, and for all the listeners out there, what you should take from today is just get up and work every day and just take another step, just keep pushing, do not stop. And with a whole lot of discipline, consistency, and motivation, you could be the best in the world at whatever you're passionate about and whatever you're obsessed about. Just go out there and win the day and move on to the next day. And I think that speaks to who you are as a person and to your dominance and your success in your life and what you've done. So again, thank you so much for spending the time with us today, and we'll see everybody next time.
Yeah. It's been fun. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, man.
Awesome.
This was great.
All right.